The authority says it approved the new policy manual in June of 2007, which did not contain the offensive verbiage. But as the I-Team Chief Investigator George Knapp found out, the old manuals are still being distributed, and he says it's just part of a bigger problem.
We have, like I said, 3 investigators on the road trying to handle 8,000 square miles and close to 2,800 cabs on the road.
At any given time, there are only 4 taxi authority officers on duty to monitor thousands of cabs on Las Vegas roadways. Still, Supervisor Rico Constantino found time in his shift to track down the driver for the U.S. Marshal Service and to give a field sobriety test to a non-cabbie pulled over for making a wrong turn. Although TA officers primarily focus on the taxi industry, like other peace officers, they have a lot of discretion, which is why written policies about enforcement priorities are so important, and making this unusual policy all the more disturbing. The heading is Exposure to Communicable Diseases, spelling out how the TA can protect its employees and the public from those suspected of having infections. And who are these people? According to the TA, high-risk groups include homosexuals, IV drug users, and prostitutes.
It took my breath away to actually read that.
Former TA officer Scott Lewis says he was floored when he read these sentences in a policy manual given to him by his boss at the TA.
It lumps in homosexuals or gays with drug users and prostitutes. Now, drug users and prostitutes, we would say, is a modern-day criminal.
The policy spells out that TA officers should use protective gear and gloves in the event they need to take a high-risk suspect into custody.
My question would be, what is a homosexual? How could you tell? How would you be able to, would you ask them, are you a homosexual, and then stop and put on, as it says, your personal protective equipment?
It is medically and politically and socially unacceptable now.
Nevada Equal Rights Commissioner, a longtime gay rights activist, Lee Plotkin, regards the policy as a relic of the past, an anachronism, especially in light of the expensive marketing campaign run by the Convention Authority to attract free-spending gay and lesbian tourists to Las Vegas. The idea that a state agency views such visitors as disease risks is abhorrent, he says.
Does that mean Siegfried and Roy couldn't have gotten a cab to the Mirage? Does it mean Elton John couldn't get a cab to Caesar's Palace? It's just ridiculous, and I certainly hope the Taxi Cab Authority takes the appropriate action.
Current and former employees like Scott Lewis say the TA is a world unto itself and does not welcome change. Lewis says he told his bosses about the anti-gay policy more than a year ago, but it's still on the books. The I-Team checked other law enforcement agencies, including the Highway Patrol, UNLV Police, Metro, Henderson, and North Las Vegas. All of them eliminated the wording years ago, except Metro, which is in the process of doing so. The TA is the only agency to not budge. Lewis says the hostility of the anti-gay policy is typical of the intolerance within the agency, not only about sexual preferences, but also race.
You've had investigators calling drivers ragheads, sand niggers. You've had officers being a direct call here. You've had the environment in the TA is awful. It's awful. And this has been brought to the chief investigator's desk and been discussed with the administrator, and nothing's been done. Nothing.
It's not just one single incident. It's a series of acts by the Taxi Cab Authority and the administration where they blatantly violate policies, laws, people's civil rights, and they're not held accountable to it. I personally was told by one of the field investigators whenever I was in my orientation that I was to, quote, watch out for these and it was made in reference to Officer James Dudley.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.